Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting of May 7th. Jim, did you want some opening comments before we go to public hearing? Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong notes. May 2nd. Okay, first item on our agenda is a public hearing. I need a motion to open the public hearing and have it seconded. So moved.
Second.
Okay, by Denny and Susan. All in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain, 12-0-0. I'd like to welcome the public to our public hearing. I see a lot of town officials and a few citizens. If you are going to speak to any of the articles, please come to the center table and use the microphone so that the people at home can hear you. And we will basically go article by article, and just raise your hand and come up to the table, and we'll cover each article as it comes up. Any questions on personnel bylaw changes, which there are none? Article 2. Personnel salary schedule and hourly schedule, Article 3. Let's see, current year budget adjustments, that's for the current budget that will expire at the end of June this year. There were some requests that came in for additional capital purchases that, because of lead times, we normally would have done these in the fall, but the funds were available, so we appropriated additional funds to get on the list for our new ambulance, and also to add additional automated defibrillators at several of the municipal buildings. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. Article 5, next year's budget. This is the massive budget that's included in the handout that comes to all the residents. Anybody have questions on the municipal budget for next year? Okay. Number 6 is current year water enterprise funds. Our motion right now is for no action. It looks like the receipts are going to come in as needed to cover the existing budget, and there's no additional appropriation necessary. I'm going to jump to Article 8, which is the sewer enterprise fund for the current year. That's also no action at this time. We don't anticipate needing to appropriate additional funds to balance this year's budget. Back to Article 7, sewer enterprise fund for next year. We passed this as a favorable action, 12-2-1. In the booklet and the handouts, the funding sources are different than what were in the booklet. The motion that came before us was to use only rates, miscellaneous receipts, and one capital budget item that has been completed. We return those funds to the operating budget. And 80,000 of retained earnings will be used to balance the budget for next year. Questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Abbott. Also, for the people at home who are listening, if you could introduce yourself, even though I may call you by name.
Okay. Bill Abbott, member of the Sewer and Water Commission. Just wanted to recap what you said. The commission had voted favorable, not on the rates, but the approach of what to do on Article 6. And the FinCom, well, that proposal required $161,000 and change from retained earnings. The FinCom decided to change that down to 80. On a $6 million budget, I've been doing some figuring, and that can be done. Whether we can get 3 votes out of the commission is another. As you're all aware, we've basically had 5 different opinions on this issue. I did come up with something that, not focusing so much on the percentages, that they would have to be different on the rates, but more of what that would actually mean per a resident who would, most of the folks are, almost half are only in Tier 1, the lowest rate, and if they were at the max, it would be $1.59. So I have some things that, I'm not going to bring it up at here, but what, when we have our meeting, to be able to see, not focus on a percentage, but what does it really mean dollar-wise. So that's the main thing, is that, yes, we plan on having a meeting this Thursday where we'll discuss what's taking place with your motion and the difference with what the administration had planned, so.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hausенjäger.
Okay, John Hasenjager, Sewer and Water Commissioner, speaking for myself. Just to respond, we really didn't have a chance when your commission changed the proposed articles at the meeting. We didn't get a chance really to respond to that, the people who were here, Bill and myself. And I would say that it seems that you did the opposite of what you were talking about. The Finance Commission was essentially talking about building up the capital, retained earnings, capital availability for future capital budget projects. And there, by your actions, you've actually done two things. You've constrained both the sewer and the water department in terms of the rate mechanisms to achieve the needed revenues, and also constrained our ability to, or our staff's flexibility to use funds for capital projects. So the 81,000 reduction in water and the 290, actually it's more than 296,000 in sewer actually puts pressure on both things. And I think Commissioner Ali Hamilton asked the question after your article about funding basically on the rates, funding operations, that what would that require, what kind of rate would that require for sewer? And that calculation is actually a 17% increase. So, you know, that's one of the things I personally disagree with, is getting into double-digit increases in rates to the consumer, and the ratepayers of Walpole in this economy and this time, pandemics and et cetera. So I'm just commenting, we are going to meet on Thursday and address, I thought there was a possibility we could support the recommendation of the town administrator, but you changed that, so I don't know if the commission will be in a position to have a substitute motion, or whether they will vote not to support your article, or to support the previously proposed article. But that's what we will take up, and that's the rationale for it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on Article 7? Article 9 is the Sewer Enterprise Fund for next year. That one was also an adjusted funding schedule, basically eliminating any use of retained earnings. And basically majority would come from receipts. Just want to let the public know is that the biggest jump in sewer costs each year is the MWRA assessment, which this year was just shy of 5% increase in cost. In the past, we've used, or sewer and water commissioners in the town meeting has voted to use retained earnings to supplement the rate increases. And we're getting to the point where the sewer retained earnings is, in our eyes, below reasonable value to continue that practice, and we want to try to get that retained number back up so we have a safety net in case something unforeseen comes. Any questions or comments? Yep. Start with Mr. Heidbrunner. Thank you.
Actually, in revisiting the figures after your vote, I realized that we're retaining almost $500,000 of legal, escrowed legal funds, which is, to me, concerning. I don't think that size of our budget should be dedicated to legal services. I think that needs to be investigated.
It's a potential claim against the Sewer and Water Commissioners, which means you would be liable if the court
Yeah,
finds
well,
against you.
I'm saying that's a sizable amount of money that's just out there hypothetically, whatever, something could go wrong. So that's the kind of thing that throws these budgets off, and trying to fine tune it so the consumer pays a reasonable, affordable fee, and we have appropriate margin of safety net for the expenditures and the operations.
Understood.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll leave it.
Mr. Abbott?
Thank you. Bill Abbott, a member of the Sewer and Water Commission. Again, as you indicated, that there was a difference from what the Sewer and Water Commission accepted the administrations as opposed to what the FinCom. And this one had real concern. On the water, $80,000 I mentioned on a $6 million budget, we ought to be able to figure a way to do that. But eliminating the fee, not the fee, but $296,000 of that hasn't been spent on the Morningside Drive sewer pump station. And the other thing, I believe, was like $24,000 on retained earnings. Again, not worried about $24,000, but to deal with losing the amount of that $296,000, and I again was doing some quick figuring and even raising the septage receiving fee, which would be in a quote, sort of a user fee by a penny. To balance that would require a 16.9% rate increase, which I just don't see happening. So I really would like you folks to reconsider what the main motion will be on this article, because I don't know what we would do in that case if we can't come up with a rate increase that would cover the costs.
Thank you. Jim, quick question. Have we posted a meeting for Saturday?
I don't.
We have time still.
We've plenty of time, it's only Monday.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on sewer? Yes, Larry?
Can get clarity on this, whatever that figure was, $500,000 or so for legal, is that like for an abatement or something, or pending some legal, you don't have to get into it, but just.
Really limited as to what I can say, because
Okay.
it's a legal matter. I can tell you that basically there's an outstanding issue out there that the commissioners are aware of, where there's someone challenging a water and sewer fee that was charged by a developer.
Okay.
And the liability there is out there. It's not a legal bill. It's they're trying to get this money back. We just have to build a buffer.
An abatement of sorts.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Denny? Yep.
Jim, is that recommendation from legal counsel for that,
Yes.
that number?
It's worst case scenario.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty. Article 10, snow and ice deficit. We were fortunate, knock on wood. No action to subsidize this year's snow and ice. Articles 11 and 12 are placeholders every year. Within the current budget, we are setting aside $500,000 for OPEB in the operating budget and $300,000 for stabilization. And at this point, we were waiting for free cash in the fall to further subsidize those items, so we voted no action on 11 and 12. Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. prior year unpaid bills. There are no bills from the last fiscal year that needed to be addressed at this time, so we have no action before us. Article 14, transfers to fund the budget of Walpole Cable. These receipts are basically restricted receipts that come in from Verizon and Comcast on a quarterly basis to the town, and they can only be used for basically public education and government programming that we get our 3 channels on to broadcast school sports programs from private individuals and a variety of other programs. Educational-wise, we provide capital expenditures to put film and media production in the high school as programs. Any other items that people might have questions on? Oh, yeah. And their budget also funds the live broadcast and the web pages, so you can rewatch these wonderful meetings of the Sewer and Water Commissioners, FinCom, Zoning Board, and Board of Selectmen, and School Board. Any questions or comments on Walpole Cable? Thank you. Yes. Article 15, rescind prior year's borrowings. This is not a return of money. It's to basically rescind an authorization to borrow. These are funds that we didn't have to borrow for projects. It's just closing the books on the ability to borrow for these projects. The projects are done. Any questions or comments? Article 16, it was brought forward by town administration and the Board of Selectmen, and we had the town moderator in to make a presentation. The town moderator is responsible for appointing people to the Personnel Board, and he has reached out to several individuals, and at this time, he's only got 3 people appointed to the 5-person board, which means he's got to have all 3 people in attendance for them to conduct any kind of business, because they need a quorum of at least 3. The Personnel Board was originally created a long time ago when there was no specialty in municipal government to cover that. Over the years, the town has added human resources, law counsel, and a variety of other specialists, either as outside professionals or on our staff, that supplement the tasks of the Personnel Board. And a lot of times, the Personnel Board's questions go to these people who already work for the town. And the article that was brought forward was basically to transfer the responsibilities of the Personnel Board back to the Board of Selectmen to oversee and have town administration and paid staff handle the day-to-day operations of what the Personnel Board now does on a once, twice, 3 times a month basis. Questions or comments from the public? Members of the committee? Yes.
Nancy Dayan, Precinct 1. On the town website, I see references to the town administrator, its assistant town administrator, benefits coordinator, but I don't see any reference to a human resource administrator. Do we have a human resource administrator?
Jim?
We do have a human resources administrator. Christine Brown serves as that, in that position.
Okay, so it's the same as the benefits coordinator, basically. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, or good evening, Mr. Chairman. Bill O'Connell, RTM, Precinct 4. I'm just trying to understand, just from the charter perspective, this is a representative town meeting.
Right.
And is the moderator in favor of abolishing this Personnel Board, or he just spoke to the issue of not being able to find anyone? I guess my concern, Mr. Chairman, is he actually appoints the board. Town meeting has that authority, so he's basically seating it. And I understand, I listened to the concerns, what the reasons were for abolishing the board, but it just seems like it's an inherent part of town representative meeting, or town representative, and to eliminate the board, again, I understand that, you know, there's a lot of HR issues, potential liability issues, which now the select board is gonna be assuming. It sounded like they don't have, you know, any more particular or expertise than
Right.
than the personnel board. So, you know, they're a volunteer board, I know they've worked hard. So I'm trying to understand again, just structurally, why town meeting would give up, really would give up that authority. The select board is the executive board, so that's one concern I have, and why this board, you know, you're appointed by the town moderator. You're a similar board, why would you give that up?
Right. He did not take exception to the article. He says it could go, it could stay. But basically, what's happening now is that on a day-to-day operational process, there are items that are being handled by town hall that need the personnel board to sign off on. If they can't get a quorum, things get delayed. And by eliminating the personnel board, the Board of Selectmen would rely on their professional staff, HR, benefits coordinator, town administrator, assistant town administrator, to handle those day-to-day operations. But the process that town meeting takes, and that the finance committee takes, and the Board of Selectmen, we still have say in salary schedules, bylaw changes. All those things are still gonna be the same. Town administration now would be basically creating these proposals, as opposed to town administration coming to the personnel board saying, can we do this, can we do that, we recommend this, we recommend that. They would just turn around and say, Board of Selectmen, you know, can we put this article on? They say yes, it comes to finance committee, we still go through the same process, and town meeting would still say yay or nay on salary schedules, bylaw changes to personnel. We're basically just eliminating what's currently a hurdle that we have to get over that's not always easy to get over.
Understood. I guess just jurisdictionally, you're changing the charter and the bylaw, right? And you're doing this through an article, but you have a bylaw review going on now. Why can't it be done through the normal course? And, you know, maybe that potentially would take more time, but what's going on with that? And why isn't it being addressed through the bylaw committee?
Let me start with Jim.
Sure. So we have about 635 employees townwide that do not fall under the personnel board. There's roughly just under 70, 68 non-union people who fall under the personnel board. Over the last year or so, we've had, Mark is correct, we've had a considerable amount of issues getting a quorum together. Dan, there's not as much interest in that board as there was in the past. Within the last 5 to 10 years, I've had a couple of issues with personnel board members who've come forward and wanted to have access to personnel files, confidential information. It really put us in a very, very uncomfortable spot. Fortunately, we dealt with it. It's coming forward now because it's, you know, I've talked to the moderator, I've talked to this committee, the select boards are supportive of it, and now's the need for change. We just can't leave ourselves in the situation where we continue to, you know, go through this office, my office, Patrick, the HR administrator, is doing a lot of the work, and we just basically run things by them. Town meeting's not giving up any authority whatsoever. In fact, actually, we're gonna follow the same process. The select board is gonna review the COLA that I may recommend whenever in the fall, and then eventually this committee will also vote on it. So we're putting it forward now because the timing's right on this one, Bill, and we need to make some type of change because it held up the budget this year. We had to cancel 3 different meetings, and the personnel board members, they seem to understand. I've talked to them, I've talked to the chairman at length about this, and he understands, so why it's coming forward now.
And actually, we have the chairman of the bylaw committee here. Do you want to chime in on this topic?
So I am currently chairing of the bylaw committee. Right now, we are working on the first section, the administration bylaws. We are 8 members of this committee. 3 of us are on this board, the bylaw committee as well. We've lost 3 members. Bill, as you know, you were on the bylaw review committee and you resigned. We've fortunately added on 2 members, so it's been a slow process, but right now we're just focusing on that first section in hopes that we have recommendations for fall town meeting.
And through you, Mr. Chairman, did you look at this issue? Has your board looked at the issue?
We haven't
And-
got, we've only been focusing on that first section right now.
Okay.
It has been a process, it's been a little bit of a slow process, but each time we've lost a member, we've had to get members back up to speed of what's going on, what we've reviewed. We've needed to have a select board member who's coming to our next meeting to kind of go over those issues, but we have not even gotten that far to review that section of the bylaws.
And then as far as authority from town council, again, you know, I'm assuming the authority is there.
Yep.
But how does what you're doing at town, how does what we're proposing at town meeting differ than changing the bylaw through a normal bylaw review and change through, you know, vetting it fully
Yep.
through Ally's committee?
Well, one, you've got to wait for her committee to go through, and she's, like she said, there are multiple sections, and they're only on section 1. They may not even get to 2/3 of the things that people would like to see them get to, but they're charged with getting a report back to fall town meeting. So they're going to do as best they can. Once that comes forward, it still has to pass town meeting. Town meeting says yay or nay on their recommendations. If they say yay, well, that's good, but now we have to go and put an article on next spring's town meeting to change the charter to comply with the bylaw changes related to personnel.
So this is, yeah.
You're pushing
so
it off.
This is really kind of a shortcut that,
We're stacking it up now, so we don't have to wait a year, and then any charter changes have to go to the state, and they can take up to 5 months to say, yes, you're good to go. So we're shortcutting it by almost a year and a half to say, this is what we want to do, and hopefully by the fall, the state would have voted on it and saying, yes, you're fine by dissolving the personnel board and making the changes you want.
So just one thing to add in there, in addition to being endorsed by town council and reviewed, she vetted it and made sure that the proper changes were in the bylaw and in the charter. Labor Council sat here one night with this whole committee, ran through all the questions. I think personnel board members might add a couple of questions too. So as far as vetting this and taking our time on this one, it's been, you know, as a town meeting member, you're just seeing it now, but we've been talking about it at least since February, the select board even before then, when they decided to put it on there. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time this committee has talked about it. Personnel boards obviously talked about it, the select board's talked about it a couple times, had it on TV. We've included the question and answer sheets for town meeting members, so we've vetted it and we've thought about it. And, you know, it's those 68 employees that are not covered by any employment agreements. The select board already have the authority over all the employment contracts. They administer and handle all the grievances and if it comes to a step 3 process. So they do have the authority and the expertise dealing with it.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it just structurally, it just seems like it's very odd that, you know, a representative town meeting would really see that authority. And hopefully it's, you know, if it were to be done, it would be done after a comprehensive study, which, and I understand what the town administrator said, but, again, it would be nice if it could be vetted through the normal process. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, can I just add one more
Sure,
comment?
go ahead.
Currently, to the bylaw review committee, the scope of the committee is really for those administration bylaws, that first section. And as part of this board, just kind of being reenacted more recently, it has not been an action since 2004, I believe, is the minutes that we went back to.
Yeah.
So that is really the scope we're focusing on, is that first section. And through the bylaw review committee, it is to report to the next town meeting after appointment, which would then be fall of 2022 with recommendations. So any other section of the bylaws beyond that, really our committee would be seeking that from town meeting for an extension to then go through all of the other sections.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Article 7, Walpole Public Schools has identified, sorry, 17? What did I say?
7.
Oh, sorry. 17, Walpole Public Schools has identified 3 sites in town on school property that would be conducive to having solar installations installed. And this article basically authorizes the Board of Selectmen to put out a request for proposal for organizations to come in and basically make presentations for solar arrays to be installed on roof of Fisher School, OPR, and in a elevated solar array over the Johnson Middle School parking lot. These would not impact the parking usage of Johnson, but it would basically, the way the proposal would be written up, they would come back and say, we want to make these solar installations, this is what the credits would be back to the town based on usage, but it's supposed to be basically no cost to us. And basically, it would be a benefit of getting low-cost or almost free electrical from the solar arrays. Questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, just,
Sure.
Bill O'Connell again, RTM member 4. So I listened to the presentation. The question I had is, with respect to the Johnson parking lot
Yes.
panels, I just want to understand that. So the town's going to enter into a 25 or 30-year lease,
Yes.
and if Johnson is sold to a developer, then is that going to really encumber that property and potentially decrease the value? I don't know, can Johnson be sold to a third-party, non-educational developer? And why are we potentially, again,
yeah.
ceding part of the parcel,
Yeah.
right, the parking lot, that's gonna have solar
Well-
arrays for 25 to 30 years?
The parcels can actually be separated because they are divided by the street. So this is strictly across the street. So the sale of Johnson could be sold without even addressing the parking lot across the street. That could be
Well,
saved at,
through you, but if the building is sold,
yes.
it's gotta come apart, I would think it would have more value if the building had parking, right? Which it doesn't have other than the parking lot across the street.
Right. It does also have a zoning restriction, correct, Jim, because it's over the aquifers?
Yeah, and Mike just reminded me that there's, we've been advised by our project manager that we likely can't sell that for profit, and if we do sell it for profit, a lot or all of that money has to go to the MSBA because of the grant that they're giving us, so. I don't know, I know people have talked about selling it to a
Right.
developer. The devil's in the details on that one,
Okay.
but I can tell you that it's a separate parcel. And yeah, Bill is right that maybe it would decrease the value by having restrictions on the parking lot there, but it is a separate parcel.
Yep, Jeff?
I just make a comment. I mean, we chose not to build there because of the aquifer. I can't see us actually selling it off to a developer to do just that and build it. So, just something to consider.
So it essentially has to be used for an educational purpose? It can't be sold to a private developer for
Bill spoke,
housing or?
Bill spoke to it back when we were looking at, you know, the Johnson versus Bird site. You know, it's buildable, but the concern was Area 1.
Yep.
Location, 700 feet from the well. That's what we were proposing. You know, I can't see us as a town selling that off to a developer to go do just what we said we didn't want to do, build on that site.
Jim, is Johnson on sewer
Johnson,
or septic?
yes, thank you.
It is, okay. Yeah, I would think so. So it could be sold to a developer, but basically he would have to stay within the existing footprint of the building, because anything outside the building would then require that full-blown review of, you're infringing on the well. So if he stays within the footprint and he's able to demo the interior without contaminating the soil around it, he can demo the interior and reuse the interior, but he can't expand outside the footprint without going through a massive amount of detail for aquifer protection.
Okay. So it doesn't sound like the market, potentially, there's not a great market there. But the town's involved in a feasibility study now, right?
Yes.
With Johnson?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be repurposed for municipal use.
Housing authorities expressed an interest in it also.
Yep. And that's one of those where if they stay within the existing footprint, it could become something that the housing authority could use as affordable housing, senior living, or something of that nature.
Potentially without parking though, right?
Well, you can park.
Yeah,
can still
you
park.
can still park in that parking lot,
Okay.
okay?
Yeah,
It's gonna be a,
Under solar.
you're basically putting an array deck over top of the parking lot.
So actually, you got nice covered park.
Yeah.
Keep a car
Relatively dry.
snow-free in the wintertime, in theory.
Thank you.
Mark, I'm no expert, but I honestly don't believe there's any zoning regulations that would prevent you building on that site. The concern was that we could build on the site, but the concern from Water Sewer Commission was that, you know, the proximity to the.
There is aquifer protection zoning because it is zone
But
one.
given the area that it's in,
Yeah,
outside where we were talking about, that 700 foot up on the cliff, you can build up there.
And if you were to build up there, again, to a third-party developer, I guess a non-municipal developer, you're saying that
I'm gonna let Mr. Abbott address that, because it's under his purview of the
Yeah.
restrictions that are out there.
The main concern was you had two choices to put this new school. You could put it in a building that's already within, very close to the 400-foot radius. Just put another one there, or you could go across town, and that's why we were to address the educational needs over at the Bird site rather than the Johnson site, where we have aquifer concerns. You're right, you could go housing would work there. It was just, you had two choices. Why, one was definitely better from a water protection standpoint.
Thank you.
Ms. Kathleen?
Not to beat a dead horse, but through you, I thought we discussed that night, and I'm looking through the minutes, I don't see it, that depending on who we contracted with for the solar, maybe Mr. Frisha could help me, that could be sold as part of the package too, if we were willing to give up that land. I thought
Oh,
the
yes.
contract
Yes.
could move
Yeah.
over to them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't preclude us from to packaging that,
Right.
if we
The
decided to
concern
go
was,
that
would
way.
it lower the value and the impact and all of that?
Right, but I think he was saying we'd have to sell it without it. We could sell it with it.
You
You
could
could,
solve
yeah.
it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Other questions on 17? Article 18, to amend the stormwater management bylaws. This ties into changes that the Environmental Protection Agency made in their permitting process. And Jim, I believe this is, the changes that have been proposed are to make us compliant with the new permitting process?
Yes, and I believe Dan is considering placing this on the consent agenda. I mean, Land has provided an extensive, detailed report as to what's changing and why, and so the Conservation Commission have really done their due diligence on this, so.
So,
Jeff?
I wanted to speak on this as a member of the public and not FinCom. I wasn't here for the meeting. I didn't support it. Well, I didn't support it because I wasn't here, obviously. But couple questions. I read through Mass DEP and the regulations, and the 5,000 to 40,000 seems overly restrictive, and it doesn't seem to be a requirement from Mass DEP. So can Landis address that?
Okay?
Secondly, from an administration standpoint, building permits have 30 days, according to MGL, for approval or denial. How does this tie into the current process?
Writing these down, I'll get you some answers.
Secondly, does the current staffing allow for all this additional permitting, including the fast-track permitting,
I've asked that, and she said it does. She can still do it within.
with the existing?
Yeah.
Okay, a year from now, I'm not getting another 80,000 budget line item for additional staffing. So,
You will not, I give you my word on that one.
so will the stormwater management plans be reviewed within the 30-day time limit for the building plans?
Already working on getting some answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, Larry?
Can we just have those answers sent to all of us? when we
Yes,
get-
please. Yeah, Jim.
Thank you.
Yep.
And I mean, just another comment, I mean, 5,000 square feet is very restrictive, guys. That's not a big area.
Yeah.
And, you know, you're doing a deck, a patio, next thing you know, you got another $10,000 building and an engineer out there. And, I don't know.
Jim, was that only on commercial, or does it apply to individual resident lots?
Individual resident lots as well.
It's all,
Okay,
because it deletes the current bylaws that are in place altogether and inserts.
those restrictions. Got it, okay. Yes, Larry?
I thought this is, I asked a question, and at the time saying, is this gonna make us less competitive? And the answer was,
Answer was no.
No.
I remember her
right,
answering that.
that's what I thought.
That's because all the towns have to now comply with the new guidelines, right?
So,
For permit.
Again, these are overly restrictive of the guidelines that are set forth from Mass DEP, as far as I can tell. And I think Doug asked the question during the meeting as well.
No problem.
Other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Entertained.
what was that?
I said entertained.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Thank you to the public. Our public hearing is closed. We do have minutes on our agenda. Jim, can you make sure we get a meeting posted for 9:30 for Saturday?
Okay,
Just
I
to-
already made a note of that. So we'll post it, because I have no idea what the commissioners are gonna do.
But that's why I just want to have something on the agenda in case something pops up at the last minute, we can review.
Can we, we'll have a quorum at least, right? Can I just do a straw poll here that if, can you make it at
People
9:30?
available at
Couple of
9:30?
precincts have caucuses.
Yeah,
At-
6 and 7
I think it's around 9:30.
at 9:30.
Okay.
It is.
If you want, I'll post it for 9:30, but we'll be right at the backstop at Little Old Baseball Diamond. We'll just kind of wait for
Everything
everyone
else to
come over.
settle out.
Probably do it more like 9:40-ish.
It's the weather on Saturday.
What?
It's the weather Saturday.
We got a backup plan. The backup plan is we'll go inside in the auditorium. Jim DiTilio's on standby.
Okay.
And we're actually gonna make sure all the signboards are ready to go that morning. I've already talked to the police and Drew. We'll have everything, where a couple of people said, oh, you just say it's at the high school. We did that on purpose because we don't know what the weather's gonna be like, but at the signboards will all, and you'll see everybody.
Don't read it, don't read it, don't put that out there.
No, it's,
Don't jinx it.
so far, it's
Don't-
just
don't put us
gonna
in
be a
sense.
mixture of different elements coming across at different times.
It will be
If
weathery.
it's bad, I'm gonna
So,
Yes.
Mark, if
Okay.
it's raining, we'll kind of
Yeah.
figure it out on the fly, but my guess is if it's raining, we'll just go and we'll grab one of the classrooms
Right.
on that, like we used to do,
Yep.
And I know there is a push to, after this town meeting, go back inside, and
Right,
Dan's gonna meet with the select board and talk it out.
okay. Alrighty. So we do have minutes. Get my right pile here.
Here's the things that I was
This pile.
talking about.
February 14th, I did get one comment back. I did reach out to the person who has assembled our minutes, and I asked him, and he hasn't gotten back to me, if he can go back and timestamp and web link the rebroadcast of the minutes for this year, so that once these become official, he would have the timestamps on it and the link to the Walpole Cable website, so you can click on it, fast forward through and say, here's the discussion of what article, and they can see it in their entirety or peruse it at their leisure.
I mean, I like that idea going forward.
Yeah.
Do we really feel so strongly that someone should sit there and go through all of these?
That's why I was asking him what it would take to do, because I know there's been some concerns that the minutes are lacking in detail.
Right,
And so that's why I asked him, what would it take to get that done?
yeah. What a boring job.
Yes.
Are you saying, listening to us?
No, again.
A second time, yeah, a second time through.
There was a discussion, I mean, for this town meeting, I wouldn't say anyone could go on the website, review our minutes, and have an idea of what our discussions really entailed for a number of different issues that we talked in length about. You would have to watch 20 minutes of video to see what we really discussed this year, because the minutes just do not have enough of a summary of it.
Right.
So,
So,
Yeah. Because basically, the minutes that we have here, several of the comments are, they lack detail, and people are not in support of these. That's why I was looking to get the web link and the timestamps put on all the minutes, in hopes that we could get minutes passed. So I'm just looking for input. Is that something we want to push for? Or do you actually want to say, hey, we're not going to approve these minutes because it's definitely lacking detail, and push it back to have the person go through and expand the detail into paper minutes?
I'm just one, oh, sorry.
Brian?
Just my opinion, I would hate for someone to have to go back and spend more time, which is more money, doing this.
Yeah.
I think they're sufficient enough. There's enough information there. Is it perfect what we want? Maybe not, but maybe moving forward, we put forth a process.
Okay.
My question is, so as the committee, we're approving the minutes.
Right.
We're not approving the video. So
Correct.
what I'm getting at is, does the video of the meeting become part of the minutes that the committee has to approve? Or like, because we're
In
referencing,
other words, we're referencing a
we're
video
referencing a
that
video.
we may not have
Watched.
watched and blessed.
Well,
Well,
it's an unedited video of our meeting.
True.
Well, I
It's a
mean,
public record.
Yeah,
It is a public record.
I was gonna say.
What we're
That is
doing
one of
with
the
the minutes is we're saying, this summary of the meeting is accurate. In other words, if the video shows 10 people said aye, and this says 9, well, then it's not accurate. But the video is the original,
right,
so.
but now my question is, we're approving the minutes. You can read the minutes, and I can see the words, and that's what I'm approving. If now it says, gee, at 10:56, Susan said this, now do I have to go into the video and see that Susan at 10:56? In other words, you're approving something in
No,
writing.
what it would do is the topics. So in other words, when we get to general government budget review, it would show that's at 10 minutes into the meeting.
Yeah.
And then when we get to culture and recreational budget review, that's 27 minutes.
So, no, I understand
Yeah.
the logistic part of it.
Yeah.
What I'm just wondering is, from the legal standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
we've been approving minutes. Now, all of a sudden, we're approving minutes that highlight to a video reference, and should that be part of the minutes? That's my question.
Oh, you're saying, so did the person who put the link in get, is it 27 minutes versus 29
Right,
minutes?
is there some official, like, we're approving something? I may be getting very much into the detail, but I'm just wondering, can the minutes do that? Or do the minutes have to be based on the written word that's in the physical minutes?
Minutes are based off the physical word written in the minutes, but it references back to a timestamp if someone wanted to go and watch it. 'Cause
Well, it
these things are
doesn't
so damn engaging.
Kathleen, and then Jeff.
I agree that they're not enough. I would say going forward, we need to do something. And I would hope that we could run by general counsel or something, something that runs at the bottom of all our minutes saying the minutes are accurate and that's what we voted on. Timestamps are added for convenience, but the committee holds no responsibility for the timestamps.
We
Right?
have-
Then,
We did the timestamps on the March
On the
31st, yeah.
Yeah, I went back and had him put the timestamps and the web link on it. So, yeah, we can definitely put the language in there for your convenience. The web link has been provided and timestamps are included, but,
not considered part of the
Then-
record.
yeah, our votes are based on the printed word here and not the video. Jeff was next.
I think
and then-
Jeff was
yeah.
first.
So, I never meant to, I'm just gonna say it publicly, I never meant to criticize anybody that ever took minutes for this committee. I mean, so the person wasn't sitting here taking the minutes, I assume they took the minutes based on a review of the video after the fact. That's a tough thing to do. I think Josette kinda, in the last meeting, kinda talked about what the minimum requirements are. And I think our minutes meet the minimum requirements. I think they're very brief. but I don't think they missed any of the main topics that we focused on for any of these meetings. We've had situations where we've had half-hour conversations, and there's 2 sentences that capture what we've talked about. And that's my big objection for, not really having an accurate picture of what the discussion has been. But I think it meets the minimum requirements, and I'd rather see something posted ahead of town meeting, available to the public, to at least see how we voted. And we need to fix the process going forward. I'd prefer to have somebody here taking minutes, and I want to get them the next meeting and not 2 months from now, where I don't remember what happened 2 months from now. So I'd like to make a motion to approve, well, you want to approve minutes at a time? I'll approve the whole block because I think they meet the minimum requirements. I've been the most vocal on this, but I want to see something get published. But going forward, we need somebody here taking diligent minutes.
So if
That's
I
my
could-
motion. Go.
Okay, so Jeff and I talked over email about this. We've had a position posted since February 15th. We haven't really had anybody, we don't have, it's not filled right now at this point. I don't want to speak ill of anybody who may have interviewed for the position. The current person who had the job, he's actually moved up to the town clerk's office. He's doing us a favor, Patrick and I, by continuing to do these minutes. We've had a couple people over the years, one who did it forever. So we're having the same issue on the sewer and water side, minutes, it's tough to take minutes and to please people, and, my suggestion was, well, if you have an edit, let's just include it in there, but I also understand that maybe a discussion happened 3 months ago, or however long, you forget what happened, so we're trying to get it filled. We're seeing this across the board with not only a clerical position, but with a lot of the other positions, so professional included. It's just, if you're out there, the workforce, it's hard to find qualified people to do the job. So we'll continue to try to work through it, but in the meantime, I appreciate the person who's doing the minutes, and I think he's, doing an admirable job for sure.
Just have, actually, Jean next, and then Mark.
I had a couple of questions about things that seem to be inaccurate. For example, on February 17th, on the animal control vote, it said Josette Burke moved favorable action, but then she voted no. So I wondered if the person taking the notes actually knew the identity of the person. And then I was able to review the video for March 31st of '22 relative to Article 16, the Personnel Board vote. It said Brian Bain spoke in favor of the article, but then obviously Brian voted no. So I went back and looked at the video, and it was actually Mark Sullivan who spoke in favor of the article after Sue did. So I found it helpful to go back and look at the video, because when you post minutes like that that may be inaccurate or identify people inaccurately, that could be a problem.
Mark?
Just wondering, the videos to the meetings, they're posted on our website where anyone can go in and click?
They're on YouTube.
YouTube.
Walpole Media YouTube channel.
Right, so anybody in the town has access?
Anyone in the world.
Yeah.
Except
Because
Russia.
I had a,
YouTube is banned in Russia.
in a prior life, I was
China,
a board secretary for a corporation, and there's 14, 15 of us. Everyone has a different viewpoint on how the minutes should be written. They certainly need to be accurate. If I'm attributed to saying something, that needs to be there.
Yeah.
But as far as are the minutes too much, are they too little? To me, to go to people from Walpole to say, here are the minutes, they're posted, here's the summary, and here's a reference point that you can go to the video and listen to it in detail. So I'm comfortable with a shorter set of minutes that get into, this was the item, here's with some pros, cons, here was the final result, and then if they are interested, they can access the video. Otherwise, the minutes can become voluminous as far as what the packages reflect.
So what do we, been listening for a few minutes. Does anyone have an idea what we actually want to do with, we've got 6, 9?
I made a motion.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Your motion was to
6.
approve
We
as
have
a block?
7.
And my motion was to approve the block.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Subject to the aforementioned
Yes.
changes
There
that
are,
Jean,
there are a few edits,
There's a
right?
I have
few,
several
we-
changes.
Yeah.
and I gave you one or two.
Yep, yeah,
Yeah.
I've got one on the middle school, with regards to the financial advisor who handles the bond placement. I can put those corrections into an email off to Steve.
Do we want to verbally
Yeah.
mention all the
I'm
edits
sorry.
before?
Do you
You want
wanna-
to verbally mention all the edits before we vote?
Okay, so on February 14th, on second page, under debt and interest budget, second to last line, Larry Pittman asked if the financial advisor receives a cut of the deal as an incentive to save the town money by finding the lowest rate. And it was basically the inserted information was as an incentive to secure the town funding at the lowest possible rate. And it was told to us that they get paid a flat rate so that they will be an impartial evaluator of the items. So that was the change on the 14th. On the 17th, we had 13 present. Dennis Crowley was not added to the absent list, so he would be added to the absent list. And then on the third page, under building inspection services, it was favorable action on inspection services, weights measures, and emergency management should be scratched out of that line because they were voted on separately. Then the next motion down was just for weights, measures, and emergency management. So there were 2 separate votes taken, and the counts are correct.
Mark,
Yes.
through you, if you're making changes, just a mention of the revolver account.
Which one are we on?
Change that.
Which?
We don't have a revolver account?
On page 3, well, my name's associated with it, so. Page
that
3,
trouble later.
under DPW,
Oh.
Ms. Grulick asked where the
Oh,
revenue
DPW
from the
parks?
It was Mr. Johnson that was talking about revolver accounts.
Revolving,
Right.
revolving accounts, got it. ING, got it.
Thanks.
Other adjustments on February 17th? On February 28th, the count was correct, attendance was correct. I didn't receive any other comments on the 28th. March 7th, first article, Walpole Media Corp. In the middle of the paragraph, it references Mr. Hendricks, it should be Mr. Shea. And then under sewer water budget articles, just over halfway down, it starts off in the middle of the page, Ally Hamilton asked about future capital. The gentleman, Scott Gustafson's name was spelled short, it should be 2 Ts on Scott. And it was also brought to my attention that we did not stay till 10 o'clock, we adjourned at 9. Yes.
Sorry, me on that same page above 10 o'clock,
Okay.
halfway down the page on the water and sewer, my name appears again, and it says, Grulick recommended reorganizing the tiers so that more residents will be able to fall under lower rate groups. I may have misspoken that night, but my understanding is that I was saying that the rates more people should be spread across more rates, because we were hearing that 70% were in the lowest tiers.
Fall in the foul spot or two,
So it's the
right?
opposite of what is stated there.
Okay, let me find that. Sewer and water.
It's like,
Oh, I think,
Conservative.
Kathleen recommended reorganizing the rates. So you're not looking to benefit the consumer, you're looking to
I just wanted
balance.
residents more evenly distributed across rates.
Gotcha, okay. Reorganize the tiers so that residents are more balanced.
She cannot take notes?
Yeah, she can, yeah.
Across the group. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see, March 10th, the attendance was correct. First, discussion of Articles 2, 3, 5, and 16. Town council was misspelled, council should be SEL.
Just for the sake of time, going through these minute details, this is
Yeah.
insane. Are there
Any drastic ones?
changes were sent
Yeah.
to him by others? Are there any changes that anyone has to
That
the
has not
minutes
sent
that
to me?
isn't here now?
Did you get the one,
Today from you?
yeah, about that it was, the same article
You, yes, I got
that you postponed it, not I?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there's only a couple of other small ones here that I noticed.
Did anyone have any others that they've seen? I'd say then let's vote on the motion. We have a motion and a second.
Okay.
My recommendation is that we,
14? Is that okay?
they were sent to,
Yeah.
they were sent to him, he's
I-
got the
I-
changes.
I will send the changes to Kevin that I received from people. So unless you have something else that's an exception that wasn't brought to my attention already.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
If it wasn't already brought up, that's what I
Right,
was just
yeah.
looking for, yeah.
Yeah, so I will take the notes that were given to me and forward them off to Kevin, saying, hey, we're approving these, and on the 14th, make these changes, and so forth. Yes, Catherine?
I don't know how this works. If we vote on a block and I want to abstain from voting on one of them because I wasn't present, does that,
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I wouldn't, otherwise a whole bunch of people have to abstain, so I missed a meeting, I'm gonna vote for the block.
Yeah, if you've missed the meeting, but you've read the minutes and you have no exceptions to the minutes, you don't have to abstain. We ran through that a couple of years back, saying, because there weren't enough people currently at the meeting who attended the meeting, but if you've read the minutes and you can reasonably rely on them that they were accurate votes and so forth, then you can vote them. So we have a motion and a second.
And you're always welcome to.
To accept the minutes of February 14th, 17th, 28th, 7th of March, 10th of March, 14th of March, 31st of March. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain, 12-0-0. I will get the adjustments off to Kevin so we can have these posted.
And let's just add for the video, Kevin, thank you very much for all your hard work. We don't mean to be nitpicky.
Thank you. Yes.
Just have one final comment with regards to the minutes.
Yes.
You know, the minutes were created back in time for someone to keep track so that future people would be able to know what happened. I'm just wondering, do we even need someone to write up the minutes? I'm wondering that the minutes should really be, started here, did this at this time, did this at this time, reference the video, and then anybody that wants to can say, gee, the finance committee voted 12-1, I wonder why, and they can access the video, like,
You
it
have
seems we're
to.
duplicating, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I actually asked town council this
Okay. Yeah.
because I said, when this came up a while ago, I said, can't they just say what the motion is, who attended the meeting? And no, since they changed the, about 5 to 10 years ago, they changed one of the municipal laws, and that was one of the changes, that you have to get a substance of the meeting and what was discussed.
Okay.
You know, as I sit there and I was whispering to Patrick about it, we can probably do, if you guys want to have someone here, which I understand, I'm doing the same thing with the sewer and water commissioners. I've kind of laid it out for them and said, your clerk has stepped down. Why don't you go, some of them will want to hire a clerk and have the clerk report directly to them. I'm totally okay with that too. If you'd like me to post a 10-hour-a-week job, you guys can do the interview, or maybe the chair can interview the person. I'm willing to work with you guys on this one. It's just tough to get someone nowadays to fill it who's experienced, so.
But the thing with our board too, it's seasonal. It's like, you know, September to,
Yeah.
it's 2 months and 2 months.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it can be
So it's
anywhere
not
from
10
6
hours
to
a
20
week,
meetings.
Are you suggesting we should meet more often?
Well, Mark, you and I could talk offline.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Jeff just gave me an idea anyways, to see maybe there's someone who already takes minutes for us, who would be willing to do it, but we'll find a way to make it work.
Okay.
I apologize.
Anything else for tonight? Otherwise, I'll
So,
entertain- yes.
well, I mean, I don't know if we can discuss it, but I think Bill wants us to reconsider Article 9 for sewer, given the,
Right.
Are you putting forward a motion to
I'm not putting
reconsider?
forward a motion to reconsider, I'm not, but should we at least have a discussion? I mean, 17, 16%, whatever his number was? I get it, but our issue was,
You can't have a discussion unless you have a motion, just under Robert's rules. I don't believe you can.
I'll know more after, well, whatever they do on Thursday. And obviously, we'll be covered because we'll be posted Friday. Well, sorry, Saturday.
Saturday morning, yeah.
I mean, we did have on our agenda to take any action as necessary. If people have concerns about that sewer article, we can have a motion to reconsider, and if it doesn't get seconded, we can still hear the person out as to why he wants to reconsider, and you can debate that before seconding the motion, and you're not outside your rules, correct?
Yeah, and we always have the fall to go back and adjust things. I mean, if the commission does one thing, if they can even get 3 votes to do a substitute motion or to.
Well, the town
take no
meeting can
action.
change it.
That's right.
At town meeting,
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
we did our job.
Yeah.
We listened, we attended sewer and water commission meetings. We, looked at everything from a decade's worth of actions. I mean, the reason it is going up, if it goes up, to actually fund it is 16% because they've been subsidizing it with
Retained earnings.
retained earnings for years, and that's why the retained earnings are down to $400,000. And they can't afford to do the projects that they have planned coming up, so they're gonna have to take out debt, which is going to raise the debt service, which is going to put more cost into the annual budget. So at some point, if you don't do 16% now, it's gonna be 28% when they run out of money.
hold on, we're discussing this. though.
You're
Do we
right,
need
so I'll
to
stop
reconsider?
talking.
Does somebody need to make a motion to reconsider, to talk, or do we just table this?
Mark,
Yes.
as far as Thursday goes, Jim, when they meet
Sorry.
and discuss what they're gonna be discussing, that won't be available to view in time for Saturday, correct?
Yep.
You could go to the
But
meeting.
that's a public meeting.
Are they meeting
Yeah.
with
Thursday, right?
Delaney?
Yeah,
Oh, so it can't be live
Yeah.
streamed.
Yeah,
but the thing is,
But we can be invited.
it's where they decided they wanted to meet.
Got a choice, Bruins or that.
I know.
well, the thing is,
Speaking of the Bruins, does anyone have a score?
they as town officials can speak to that article.
Yeah.
At any point in time. But it has to come from 2 RTMs, a substitute motion.
Yeah, but there's plenty of sewer water.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
But
just thinking
basically,
for each
at
one,
this point, they weren't even sure they could get 3 guys to agree
yeah,
on
4
what
of
they
them
wanted.
are town meeting members.
What's the deadline for a substitute motion for?
Dan usually likes to have it the day before, so Friday, but
Yeah, Friday at noon
he's
time is
he's well aware of this whole situation, so.
Yes.
Through you, I think, without getting into any of the substance of this, I anticipate this will be the big issue at town meeting, and frankly, I welcome it being a big issue, because, just for what Denny said, in other words, I think there'll be a lot of strong feeling one way or another, and I will have an opportunity to present our reasoning, and they'll present their reasoning, and at the end of the day, that's how town meeting works. So I think we should just let the process work, because there's no fixing this between us and sewer and water. The way, I've been to their meetings, and I just, they can't even seem to come to a consensus. So I think this is really ripe for really active, hot debate at town meeting, and then.
Yeah.
So just to
Whatever town meeting
piggyback on
decides,
that too, so what town meeting members will have a handout, and it's pretty similar to the one I gave you at the last meeting. Sewer and Water Commission's vote will be in blue, yours will be in black, so they can see side by side, what did FinCom actually vote, and what did the sewer vote, so they'll they'll be handed that right at the beginning, and they're gonna be made aware of it.
Are you saying we're all gonna be black and blue at the end?
From the get-go.
So, Mark, you'd be prepared at town meeting to speak on kind of why, the rationale
Yep.
we discussed on pulling out Morningside Drive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because it was a capital approved expenditure at town meeting that we were now gonna use to
Cancel the
offset
project and
operating.
balance the budget, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we don't know what the commissioners are gonna do for a vote as far as their rates. So they could vote zero, like, come June, or whenever they vote, decide their rates.
And
And
there'll
we're
be at
gonna
least one
have
new
to
member on
address
their
this one way
committee,
or
too.
another at the
Yeah.
fall,
Yeah.
yeah, so.
And there'll be at least one new member on their commission when they do the.
Even if the FinCom vote passes, they could still be in a deficit situation because they funded at 0 or 7% or 2%.
Which is all, if that's the case.
Yep.
But then they have to come back to town meeting to spend.
Just quickly, are people disappearing after the middle of June on vacations or anything? Generally, we have one follow-up meeting after town elections to basically authorize the officers of the Finance Committee to approve budget transfers, reserve fund transfers to balance the budget and close the books up through March 15th. But Jim generally has a better handle on what kind of things may or may not come before us, and we can act on those ahead of time as a full committee. Otherwise, we just vest power to the officers to sign off up to a dollar limit per request.
What you have in mind?
Yeah, but we usually set it usually around 10.
Yeah, so, I mean, but just, because if stuff comes up, I'd rather have the entire committee hear an item, June 15th, as opposed to between now and July 15th, Denny or I are just signing off on things up to $10,000 at a pop.
I have an idea, Mark. So the select board is they would like to meet on the 7th to talk about ARPA and to listen to what people want to advocate for. This is something they want me to invite FinCom to, and maybe we post a meeting for a half hour before that meeting.
On June 7th?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
There you go, Jeff, we're getting more meetings in.
All right.
Little League that night, guys.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Denny? Motion to adjourn. Do I have a second by Susan? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you, everyone. See most of you Saturday.
Yeah.